So we've been having some pastor cohorts that have been working together. So, Pastor Roy, come up and tell us what's been going on in your church. And tell us a little about what you did in your neighborhood and what's going on in the church.
Okay. 8 months ago, I did not know Doug, nor David, nor Matt, nor Mandy. I didn't know Andrew. I didn't know Michael. I didn't know Fred. I didn't know Wilma, and their last name's not Flintstones. I didn't know Dennis. These are all people I've met in the last 8 months, and they were my neighbors. And I'm ashamed to say, I didn't know any of their names except one of them. I would wave at them when I'd go past them, but that was it. The Lord used a dear member of our church, Marilyn, who's sitting right here. And Marilyn has always had a missionary's heart and was, in fact, on the mission field. But she was so on fire to be used where she was, and she had gotten hold of, I don't even know the full story of how you heard about neighborhood initiative and started reading Lynn's material. But anyway, she did, and she started telling me about reaching neighbors. I said, I've heard about that somewhere. Maybe it's in the Bible. Maybe that's where I heard it. And so I was so slow of heart to see this. So Marilyn hooked me up with Paul and Lynn, and I started attending meetings. And I said, well, first of all, I'm going to start praying and walking our neighborhood. I'm just going to start right there. I'll come back to that in a moment. But the Lord did something right off the bat when I started to do it. You know, you've heard about beginning with the end in mind. Well, the Lord did that for me because the very week I started prayer walking, I got a phone call from neighbors who used to live next door to me, Brandon and Ashley. And I didn't reach out to them, they reached out to me. He gave me Raiders tickets one time. So, so he initiated, and I got to know him, and I would talk to Brandon quite a bit, and then he moved away to Modesto. And I get a call on that week that I had started prayer walking, and he said, would you marry my girlfriend and me? He had his living girlfriend, and he wanted me to perform the ceremony. Long story shortened a little bit, in the premarital counseling, Brandon and Ashley came to Christ. And so the Lord gave me, this is what the end will look like for all of this slow process of getting to know neighbors, starting to pray for them, and it just encouraged my heart that there was a piece of fruit that was shown to me as to what this is about. It's not just about getting to know our neighbors. It is definitely about seeing people come to Christ. Well, with that, I started prayer walking, and it happened every single time. I would actually go in the middle of the afternoon, and maybe unconsciously I thought, well, no one will be out there. Maybe I don't have to engage anyone. No, that's not what I was thinking. It's just when I decided to do it. And in fact, there was no one out there. I would go out every single time. The streets were, they're at work, they're doing other things. And every single time I went on my prayer walk and I would start down the street, the Lord would have someone come out of their house or go get the mail or do something. One time I came home and went in to set my things down and go back out to start my prayer walk. When I went in the house, no one was there. When I went out, the neighbor across the street was hitting plastic golf balls in his yard. And that started a relationship with David. And David, in the first conversation I had with him that day, was filled with profanity. I'd never heard anybody cuss that much in my whole life. And was bitter. He told me about his Father's Day 4 years ago when he came home and his wife had left a letter that she was leaving him and she was gone. And that was my Father's Day gift, he said. Bitter. And but he was talking more than pastor. He was going on and on and on about what was going on in his life. And we have been so close since then. Now I cuss like a sailor. But it was great. He knew I was a pastor. He didn't care. He was just himself, and it felt so good, you know. And so there we were. And then another neighbor, similar thing happened. Just meeting. Then I thought, all right. So I'm meeting these people. Now I want to start sharing it with the church. And we started these meetings, told Paul about these meetings of where we decided we're going to meet on Wednesday nights, and we're just going to do 3 things. We're going to have a meal, and we're going to then talk about what the Lord did in our neighborhood contacts during that week, and then we're going to pray. And that was it. And we did it for 7 weeks. And we are not a large church. Of the 120 people in our church, though, 30 of them came out for this. And after the 7th week, there were still 30. And that was our only agenda, just eat a meal, talk about what God was doing in the past week, their neighborhood contacts, and then pray. And that was all we did, wasn't it? That was it. After it's over, I want to say Maryland has continued on. It was 2 prongs. It was our church reaching our church neighborhood, and every individual in our church reaching their neighborhood they live in. So that's it.
Isn't that awesome? Thanks, Roy.
Yeah.